All right, let's get into it. We're going to unpack the incredible story of Yahoo's fall from grace. It's a wild tale of mischances and huge mistakes that brought down one of the first and most powerful giants of the internet. So, picture this, it's the year 2000. Yahoo is on top of the world, valued at a mind-blowing $125 billion. I mean, just think about that for a second. They weren't just a big company, they were the absolute, undisputed king of the internet. They seemed completely unstoppable. And then there's this number. Just 17 years later, Verizon bought Yahoo's main internet business for less than $5 billion. From $125 billion down to under 5 is one of the most shocking destructions of value in modern history. So you have to ask, how does that even happen, right? A collapse that massive wasn't just one bad day at the office. It was a series of critical fumbles, really a death by 1,000 cuts, that started way back when Yahoo was at the very peak of its power. To really get the scale of this fall, you first have to appreciate just how dominant Yahoo was in its golden years. It's honestly hard to overstate how much influence they had. So, Yahoo was started back in '94 by a couple of Stanford grad students. It began as a simple directory, kind of like a phone book for the messy early web. But it blew up fast and became the ultimate portal, your one-stop shop for email, for news, stocks, and of course, search. For millions of people, the Yahoo homepage was their front door to the entire online world. But the first real crack in this massive empire appeared with one single decision. A huge miscalculation about a tiny little startup with a kind of goofy name that would, well, eventually change everything. Okay, this timeline just lays it all out. It shows you they just didn't get what was coming. In 1998, they could have bought Google for $1 million, but they said no. Why? Because Google was too good. It sent people away from their site too quickly, which went against their whole portal strategy of keeping you there as long as possible. Then, in 2000, they started using Google to power their own search. They basically put up a giant ad telling their own users, hey, this other company's search is better than ours. By the time they finally woke up and offered $3 billion in 2002, it was just too late. And that whole Google mess, well, it pulled back the curtain on a massive problem inside Yahoo. The company had no idea what it wanted to be. This identity crisis would paralyze them for years and stop them from ever picking a clear direction. And this right here, this just nails the problem. There was a war raging inside the company. On one side, you had the media people. Their CEO was a former Hollywood exec, and he wanted Yahoo to act like a TV network, create content, keep users on the site, and sell ads. But on the other side, you had the engineers, the tech people, who wanted to build amazing technology and innovate on things like search, just like Google was doing. It was basically a culture clash between Hollywood and Silicon Valley, and nobody won. The company just stalled. You know, this internal confusion was perfectly summed up in a leaked company memo that got called the Peanut Butter Manifesto. A top executive basically said that Yahoo was spreading its resources so thin across so many different projects, like spreading a tiny bit of peanut butter over a huge piece of bread, that it couldn't be great at anything. They were trying to be everything to everybody, and they ended up being masters of nothing. So, what happens when you spread yourself that thin? Well, for Yahoo, it meant their big money acquisition strategy, which should have been a huge advantage, turned into a total disaster, a graveyard of squandered potential. See, Yahoo was constantly buying cool new companies instead of building things themselves. But here's the thing. Buying a company is useless if you don't know what to do with it. They bought amazing companies like the photo-sharing site Flickr and the blogging platform Tumblr, and then just kind of let them wither on the vine. They failed to invest in them, and that left the door wide open for competitors to swoop in and take over. Now, get this. Yahoo literally had the future of social media in its hands and just let it go. In 2006, they had a deal on the table to buy Facebook for $1 billion. But then their stock dipped a little and they tried to haggle. They lowered their offer to $850 million. A young Mark Zuckerberg walked away. Just think about that. That single decision was a $1 trillion mistake. $1 trillion. So you've got years of this indecision, a revolving door of CEOs, and a few really catastrophic failures. All of it came together to create the perfect storm for the company's long, slow, and inevitable decline. By 2014, things had gotten, well, just plain weird. Turns out, one of Yahoo's smartest moves ever was an early investment in the Chinese e-commerce site Alibaba. That investment had become so valuable that it, plus their stake in Yahoo Japan, was worth more than all of Yahoo. The stock market was basically saying that Yahoo's core business, the search engine, the email, all of it, was worth less than zero. It was a liability. And this internal chaos had very real consequences. Think about it. 5 different CEOs in 5 years. It's like trying to build a house when the architect and the blueprints change every year. Nobody knew what the plan was, and that neglect led directly to those massive security breaches. We're talking about the biggest data breaches in history. Billions of user accounts were affected. Trust was completely shattered, and it even ended up knocking $350 million off the final sale price to Verizon. Just a humiliating end to the story. So, after all of that, what's the takeaway? What can we all learn from the epic collapse of one of the internet's original pioneers? Well, these lessons aren't just about some tech company from the 90s. They're timeless warnings for any successful business. Complacency kills. You have to adapt or you'll die. You've got to have a clear vision. It's not enough to just buy cool stuff. You have to have a plan for it. And you should never, ever underestimate the underdog. Yahoo's story is the ultimate case study. This old proverb just says it all, doesn't it? Back in the day, Yahoo was the giant fish, swimming in a high tide of success. And little startups like Google, they were just ants on the shore. But Yahoo didn't realize the tide was going out, and pretty soon, the ant was big enough to eat the fish. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. When you look at the tech titans of today, the Metas, the Amazons, the Googles, which of them might be getting a little too comfortable? Which of them might be making those same classic, fatal mistakes that brought Yahoo down?